Anime are often ranked with a lot of bias. I, of course, am no different, and I have done my fair share of anime tier lists that included my bias. But today, I'm going to look at every anime I have seen, and I'm going to rank them objectively. Which means we're going off the writing, the impact, the character development, everything. We're going off of how well they are made, not how much I enjoy them. Because, for example, if you guys are a fan of the channel, I'm not a big fan of Attack on Titan because it has Titans in it, right? I don't like Titans, but objectively, Attack on Titan's a pretty good show. So with that being said, let's get started and hop straight into this. Now, we are going to get started here on our list, and we talked about Attack on Titan. I think we're just going to start it off and put it in good. It might finish top 10, I don't know, we'll have to see, but Attack on Titan is obviously one of the most loved anime. It has a pretty good story. The characters are solid. I think the characters are kind of a weak point. I don't think there's that many great characters in Attack on Titan, but the good ones are fantastic, I will say that. And the power system is kind of unique. It's really just zombies mixed with mechs, but nobody's done it before, right? So it's unique in that aspect. So I think it goes in good for now. It might be able to end up in the top 10, but I can't say for sure yet, so we'll have to see. Next, we have Baki Hanma, or just Baki in general, I guess. Baki has been spread apart from it started in 2003, and we just got a new season like a week ago. And Baki doesn't have great animation. The story's not the greatest. The characters aren't the greatest, but none of it's bad, right? So I think it's going to go into mid. Also, I need to change these tiers to make it run more like this. So this makes more sense because this was like it was subjective. Now we're doing objective, right? I think it's going to end up in the mid-tier category, though, because it's not anything fantastic. A lot of people like it. It's decent, but yeah, nothing else. Next, we have Beyblade. Objectively, the story can be pretty repetitive. The characters are pretty unique, I will say. The design's very unique. The power system's obviously very unique. But it can be very repetitive at times and a little bit childish, so it's going to have to go mid. And, I'm going to rank them in the tiers. It's going to go above Baki, right? I think it's objectively better than Baki, but it's a little repetitive at times, so I don't think it can go in good. Next, we have Bleach. Bleach, obviously very inspirational for a bunch of other shows. It has very unique characters, very unique power system, but it's only going to go in good. It's not going to make top 10. There's no way. The pacing in Bleach is just way too bad for it to make top 10, and it is it used to be the most dropped anime for about 15 years. So I don't think that can land it in top 10. That's not a stat you want to have. Next, we have Bungo Stray Dogs. I think objectively, you've got a lot of great characters, but I think where it struggles is the story. Now, a lot of the story is unique, but a lot of it's also not unique. They do a lot of basic plot points like memory loss, zombies, apocalypse, all this and that. They've done like every basic plot you could think of. It's in the show somewhere, but the overall plot is pretty unique, but there is a lot of basic stuff in the show. I think I'm still going to put it in good. I think objectively it's a good show because it has a lot of unique characters, unique power systems. Some of the greatest characters in all of anime are in Bungo, but the story can be a little bit lacking, but I still think it's good. Next, we have Chainsaw Man. Well, Chainsaw Man, is not very far into it. That's what I always say when I rank Chainsaw Man, because people don't understand. Like, all the manga readers are always like, dude, it's this good, this good. And it's like, we haven't got to that point yet. I'm going to be honest, right? It's just getting started. So, for me, Chainsaw Man, I do think objectively it's good. But so far, not a lot of the characters have been fully dove into yet, which obviously it's going to come, but it hasn't happened yet, right? So we can't really go into that. But the fighting is great, the animation is great, the music is great. It's just, we're just getting started. So I think it's just going to have to land in good. And I'll put it under Bungo because Bungo has a lot more fleshed out characters. The story's a lot more fleshed out at this point. So yeah, it is a good show. It's just getting started. Next we have Code Geass. I think objectively a top 10 show. It has the greatest start and finish in an anime, in my opinion. I think a lot of people would agree with that as well. Very unique power system, very great characters. The only part about Code Geass that isn't great, that's non-biased, is the animation. Now, I will hear Code Geass fans be like, no, it looks good, it looks good. No, it doesn't. Everybody has a pointy chin. Their haircuts look stupid, right? They all look like just not much effort went into the haircuts or the facial structure and stuff like that. And, yeah, so that's really the only negative about it. The rest of it's very great, so it's obviously going to end up being in the top 10. Next, we have Cowboy Bebop. I think, objectively, it has some of the greatest characters of all time. The story is where it shakes a little bit. I think I'm going to put it ahead of Bleach because the whole point of the show is to just follow the 4 main characters and kind of give a little bit of something to someone, and it does a great job. But the story can be a little bit all over the place sometimes, which is why a lot of people love it. But I could see how that would not make it top 10. But it does have a lot of characters in it that are very, very phenomenal, which is why it's going to be in the good section. Next, we have Dragon Ball Z. I think Dragon Ball is also going to be in the good section. I think it's going to go right above Bleach. Now, I know a lot of people, may say it should go top 10. Here's the thing about Dragon Ball. It's arguably the most popular anime ever, which gives it a lot of points here. But it loses a lot of points because the story is not really that great, objectively. Like, there's not much after the Cell Saga that's really unique or interesting for the most part. Now, they have a lot of cool characters and stuff, sure, but even that, like, a lot of the characters are not dove into, so there's not much connection being built there, and the plot, objectively, past the Cell Saga is not fantastic, right? So it's just going to go in good. It is a good show, but I don't think it can go much higher. Next, we have Death Note. I think, objectively, it's a good show. I'm going to put it at the bottom, but the reason why I say that is because the first half of the show is phenomenal, and I don't think anybody would argue that it's not perfect, other than one detail, which I'll talk about in a moment. But it's the second half of the show after, the big thing happens, where the show really declines, and it really just is not as good. And so I think for that reason, and a lot of people pretend like that doesn't even happen. So for that reason, that's why it's only going to be in good, because it's really only the first half of the show that's great. But also there's some other things that just honestly, objectively don't really make sense, I guess, in the first part. But it's fine. I think the first part is damn near perfect, and the second part is just not that good, so it's going to go into good. Next, we have Death Parade. I think objectively, again, it's going to be a good show. I'd put it just above Chainsaw Man. It's a short show, but it's straight to the point. You know exactly what's going on in Death Parade. You get the whole vibe of the show very quickly, and it has a lot of very good emotional and shock factors in it, right? The only thing is there could be better characters. It could be a little longer. A lot of the stuff could be explained more, but it did its job, right? It was supposed to be a good, emotionally shocking show, and it was, which is why it ends up in good. Next, we have Demon Slayer. Demon Slayer is very, very popular, but objectively, it's going to have to go into eh. The only reason it doesn't go into garbage is because of how popular it is, because if we look at Demon Slayer, let's look at the positives of it objectively, right? The animation is solid, right? I think most people will agree on that. It's at least solid. A lot of people think it's amazing, but it's at least solid. Other than that, the story is not fantastic. The story is not in depth. The story doesn't make sense in a lot of moments. A lot of the characters are very boring to a lot of people. There are very few exceptions to this. The main villain seems awful. The whole power system kind of sucks. Everything is over-exaggerated by the animation because a lot of the stuff doesn't even happen. It's just pretty lights for the show. So I think objectively, it's kind of a garbage show, but it's so popular that it has to go into eh. I feel like that's the only thing that makes sense. Next, we have Cyberpunk Edgerunners. I think objectively, it's a pretty good show. I'd probably put it just above Bungo. I don't think it can go above some of those shows that are a lot longer and a lot more impactful on the anime space. But Cyberpunk, I think a lot of people will agree, it's a fantastic story, has great characters. The only part about Cyberpunk is objectively, David's character does not really make sense. Also, Rebecca is there for pretty much no reason, and a lot of people love her, so it gives people more points. She does nothing in the whole show, to be honest, but that's besides the point. David's character objectively does not make much sense. He's supposed to be a smart guy. I get he had to pay to get into the school, but they still wouldn't let him in unless he's smart. So he's supposed to be like a very, very smart kid, but he just constantly does stupid things for selfish reasons over and over and over again. And so I think for that reason, that's why it can't go much higher. The main character honestly doesn't make much sense. Now, he's cool, and I think the fact that he doesn't make much sense gives him more value, like as an enjoyer, but objectively, it doesn't make sense to really put it higher. Next, we have Fairy Tail. I think objectively, it's also going to have to go eh. I will put it above Demon Slayer, because Fairy Tail doesn't have a big fan base like Demon Slayer. This is just a straight eh show, and the reason why is because the characters, for the most part, are pretty good. I'm not going to lie. The animation is mid, not really that great. And then we have the story, which is the definition of eh. Literally, it's like split 50-50, which, so I guess you'd say mid, but the fact that it's split 50-50 makes me want to go eh. half the story is good and half the story is dog shit, honestly. Like, half the story is very amazing. Like, Tower of Heaven's one of the greatest anime arcs ever, and then you get to Daedalus, which is such an awful arc. And there's so many awful arcs in Fairy Tail. There's a lot of good ones, but there's a lot of really bad ones too. So that's why it's going to go, there's too much bad you have to watch to get through it. Next, we have Golden Kamuy. I think this is going to be another show. I actually put it behind Demon Slayer. The reason why is because it's a hilarious show, but that doesn't really do much for a story. The story is all over the place in the show. It's kind of confusing. A lot of the stuff doesn't really get fleshed out and doesn't make sense for the most part, so that's why it's going to go in Is it entertaining? Sure. Is it funny? Yes. Are the characters cool? Yes. The story is just really all over the place and not explained very well at all, so I think it's going to have to go Next, we have Gurren Lagann. This is another one with potential to be top 10. I think it's going to go ahead of Attack on Titan for me because I don't think Gurren Lagann really has any flaws. Objectively, now for me, I hate mechs, so I don't like really anything with mechs in it. But, you know, that has nothing to do with objective ratings, right? Objectively, it's a very good show. Not really much wrong with it. Great characters, great story if you like mechs. So, yeah, it's going to go in good. It might end up in the top 10. Next, we have Hunter x Hunter. I think this is pretty easily going to go top 10. I've never heard a single person say, I don't like Hunter x Hunter. That's just not a sentence that has ever been uttered. I've never heard that in my life. The only problem with Hunter x Hunter, the reason why it might not be in somebody's top 10 is because it's not finished. But Hunter x Hunter is arguably a perfect show, other than the fact that it's not going still. But it's hard to find anything wrong with Hunter x Hunter, honestly. I think the only thing you could point out, which doesn't necessarily matter, is a lack of female characters, but that's not always important in a story, so it doesn't really matter. But other than that, it's a phenomenal story with arguably no flaws. Next, we have JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. Now, I want to put it top 10, but I'm trying to think objectively, because JoJo's has a lot of parts. I think objectively, gonna have to put it good. I'll put it above Attack on Titan. Now, the reason why I don't think it's objectively a top 10 is part 1 is slow. A lot of people don't really like part 1. And even though the anime has no filler, there are a lot of episodes that do feel like filler. And now I get, you say, feel like that's subjective, blah, blah, blah. But there are episodes in JoJo's that literally have zero impact on the story. And that's not an opinion. That is a literal fact. There are episodes that have zero impact on the story. I'm mostly looking at part 4 and part 3. Those parts have a lot of meaningless battles, meaningless arcs, meaningless. They have a lot of that, right? And so for that reason, I think that's why it's going to have to go in good. Obviously, it's a super inspirational show. A lot of people love it. But part 1 is very slow and not really like the rest of the parts. And part 3 and 4 have a lot of parts to it that just are not necessary, that just feel kind of out of place at times. So I think that's why it's going to have to go good. Next, we have Jujutsu Kaisen. Now, I say this every time. The more and more that gets animated, the lower and lower it's going to rank. But as of now, JJK is pretty good. I don't know. I think I'd put it probably just above Chainsaw Man. It's basically just a little bit more fleshed out than Chainsaw Man. Now, opposite of Chainsaw Man, the more it goes, the further it's going to go down because it only gets worse from here. But JJK has a lot of really good characters that are written well as of now. And they also have a pretty good plot going on as of now. Like I said, it does get a lot worse later on. But right now, the plot, characters, story, and all that is pretty good. I can't put it much higher because there's still a lot missing. And if you want me to go off the manga, then it's going to rank a lot lower. Next, we have One Piece. One Piece is a very popular show as well. I would put it... Oh, God, that's tough. I think I'm going to put it just ahead of Dragon Ball. Maybe ahead of Cowboy Bebop as well. It's a very long anime. A lot of people love it, but One Piece does have problems, and you'd be lying if you said it didn't. Obviously, the pacing is horrendous. For that, I'm going to put it behind Cowboy Bebop. The pacing is terrible. There are a lot of characters in the show, so a lot of them don't get dove into. There's a lot of mystery in the show, which I know people like mystery, but it's a good and bad thing because you're always wondering about something, and... yeah, as of now, not everything has been explained, right? Obviously, that's not going to hold it back too much. And I had another point that I can't remember. Oh, a lot of the arcs kind of feel the same. They go fight Big Bad, lose to Big Bad, and then train a little bit, and then go fight Big Bad again, whether they get new form, this, and that, or whatever. That's how most of the arcs go. A lot of the arcs have a similar style, and they're all very long because the pacing is really bad. So that's why it's going to end up here in good. I think the story's phenomenal. I think the characters are phenomenal. And... yeah, just some of the other things just are not. Next, you have One Punch Man. Ooh. It's hard not to have recency bias because Season 3 is so bad, but I think objectively it's a mid show. Season 1, I think, is probably the best season of One Punch Man. It's kind of an introductory season, and Season 2 is where the story really gets started, but it's more of a setup season, so not that much going on, and Season 3 is just utterly terrible. So, yeah, I think the characters are good. I think the story's alright. It's okay. I think the animation is very bad. I think in Season 3. And I think the pacing overall for the whole show is very bad. Why we didn't have the Garo and Saitama fight in Season 3, I don't understand that. That's not very good. Also, the time it takes to release a season is ridiculous. It takes about 5 years for each season. That's only 12 episodes. Yeah, absolutely ridiculous. It's going to have to go into mid for all those reasons. Next, we have Brave Master. This show's just garbage. I mean, the characters are kind of cool, but the animation's not good. The story is really, really bad, and there's not much depth in this show whatsoever. Next, we have Solo Leveling. It's pretty much like Dragon Ball, except a little bit worse, and I think it's going to have to go I'll put it at the top of because it has good action moments, good animation and stuff, but there's a lot of parts of Solo Leveling that aren't very good, like the music, the story, and the characters. The only character that matters to the story whatsoever is Sung Jin Woo, and he's the only character with any depth in the show whatsoever, and he still has little to none. There is no depth in any character here, so it takes a big knock, because if you don't like Sung Jin Woo, you're not going to like the show. He is the only character that matters, so that's obviously a big knock too. The story is all over the place. The story does not make a whole lot of sense. It's just Sung Jin Woo clearing dungeons and getting stronger. Not really very good, right? Obviously, this show is carried by its animation and hype moments, because other than that, there's not really much going on in here. Now, personally, I do like Solo Leveling, but objectively, it's just not a very good show. Next, we have Vinland Saga. Oh, Vinland Saga is tough. Objectively, it is very, very good. It's going to go ahead of JoJo's. I think there are some things you can point at in Vinland Saga that aren't amazing, right? But for the most part, you have one of the greatest main characters ever written and one of the greatest stories ever written. Now, the reason I'm not putting it ahead of Gurren Lagann or instantly in the top 10, again, we're only in season 2 of the show, and as well, gosh, what was my other point on it? I literally just forgot it. I don't know, maybe it, just hasn't gone on long enough, I don't know. But next we have Devil May Cry. Now, it's hard to rank this because there's two types of people that watch this show, so depending on which one you are, you would rank it differently objectively. Now, I know that doesn't make sense because it sounds like subjective matter, but you can either look at it and go, alright, this is a cool, original stance on Devil May Cry, or you can look at it and go, this is nothing like the games. Now, personally, I don't like the people that complain that it's not like the game because it's not supposed to be like the game. If you want to see the story of the game, go play the game. That's what the game is for. The show is not to replicate the story of the game. That's my biggest complaint about people that say that. It's like, it shouldn't be faithful to the material. It's its own thing. It's not supposed to be the game. You want to play the story of the game, or you want to see the story of the games, go play the games. You know what I'm saying? That's the whole point of it. So I don't understand that argument. So I'm going to look at it as what it is. A original stance on Devil May Cry. And in my opinion, so far, it is good. It's going to go at the bottom of good because we only have, 8, 10 episodes? Not enough to go off of at all. But for now, it is pretty good. I can't really say much else. It has good characters. The story is looking to be interesting. The animation's good. The CGI is not even that bad. I thought it'd be horrible. It's not really that bad. And the music's phenomenal. So I think it's pretty good so far. Next, we have D. Gray Man, and I removed the other one. Good. D. Gray Man, honestly, in my opinion, I honestly think objectively it is a garbage show. It feels like a Full Metal Alchemist ripoff, and now I know that doesn't necessarily make a show garbage, but to me, a lot of the characters in D. Gray Man are not very good. Alan is good, Lena Lee is good, and maybe Tiki Mick, but everybody else is just not really a great character. A lot of the characters in it suck. The animation is pretty terrible, I'm not gonna lie. The music, the OST is terrible, but the intros and outros are pretty solid. The villain group, not very convincing, very lame as well. The story, overall, not really that good. It's like a way worse Full Metal, like I was saying earlier. I don't think there's many positive things objectively to pull out of D. Gray Man other than the main character is pretty cool. Story's not really that great. Power system's not really that great. And the story also does, it makes sense, but it's kind of all over the place. At one moment, he's looking for his master, and then the next moment, he's finding some vampire dude to help join him. Then the vampire guy ends up doing, practically jack shit because it's just all over the place. Like, every episode kind of feels like filler. Oh, and the show is scattered with filler. Now, I don't really care about filler, honestly, in a ranking, so, yeah. But The Gray Man, I think, objectively, is pretty trash. I think you just have to have, like, a liking to shows like that to like the show. If you just told a random person to watch The Gray Man, chances are they're not going to enjoy it. Next, we have GTO. I think objectively, it's pretty mid. I'll put it above Baki. Now, it's a show basically for comedy, and you get comedy and a little bit more out of that. It is pretty funny. A lot of the characters can be relatable. A lot of the characters can be inspiring, right? But overall, it's just a comedy show, and the biggest reason why it's mid is because, yeah, it just adapts a random part of the manga, which isn't even really the main part of the manga, it just adapts a random part of it into a show. So the story is very, very incomplete. But you go into GTO expecting laughs, and that's it, and you walk out with a little bit more. So that's the reason it's going to go mid, just not much going on other than it just being funny. Next we have Tsukimichi Moonlight Fantasy. Now this is a show that I think is going to go bottom of eh. I'm debating on putting it garbage, but I don't think I'm going to. For an isekai, it's actually pretty solid. Most isekais are dog shit. But for Tsukimichi, the reason why I think objectively it's not great is because a lot of the story either makes no sense or is just very dull. Like, there's not much to the story at all. It's, oh, we're gonna build our own city, and it's like, to get revenge at this god that was mad at me. It's like, yeah, that sounds boring as hell, lame as hell, and doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. It's not a good, like, revenge case or whatever. Like, honestly, it's just not a great story whatsoever. It's funny, it's very funny, which is the only reason I'm not putting it in garbage. But when it's not funny, it's really bad. The story's not that good. The characters aren't that good, other than Tomoe, I forgot how you say her name. But other than that, characters aren't really that good. Story is really bad. Animation is basic as hell. So, yeah, the only thing that's saving it from garbage is it is very funny. Next, we have The Elusive Samurai. Genuinely, the worst show ever, in my opinion. I don't really understand how people can sit here and watch this because, you know, I could argue so many different reasons why this is bad subjectively, but I would tell you one objectively and then all the other reasons why. One, this is based off a true story and is nothing like the real story whatsoever. It is actually a complete massacre of the real story. So that alone, I could put it garbage for that. But as well, the voice acting, at least dub-wise, is horrible in this show. The story is very unrealistic for something based off a real story, even if they want to make it their own. It's supposed to be based off a real-life event that happened, and the stuff that happens in the show makes zero sense. It is terrible. The characters are awful for the most part. Most of them really suck. The animation is alright. Like, it's pretty good, but it's not anything special. There's so much about the show. Mainly the story is the biggest problem because not realistic, not at all what happened in the actual story, and basing it off a true story and having all this bullshit happen in it makes no sense. I'm sorry, a little kid, I don't care how much he practices, does not be grown-ass soldiers and generals in anything. Yet that's what happens in this. And the greatest spy in the world is like an 8-year-old kid who likes to get drunk and piss on people. I'm sorry, that does not make sense. It's a garbage show. It's terrible. It makes no sense. It also has zero target audience. That's another big thing for me why I think the show is trash, because it is so childish. It is one of the most childish shows you'll see, but if you put this on in front of their kids, they're going to be scarred for life because there's people getting their skin and heads ripped off. So not really understanding who this show is for. It is a terrible show. Next, we have Kill la Kill. I think it's going to have to go into eh. I'll put it above Tsukimichi. The reason why is because the plot of the story is pretty ass. I'm not going to lie. It's a funny show. It's got good animation, good fights, honestly. But it's just way too horny. It's too sexual the entire time. And the whole story being about getting naked is stupid. It's dumb. It's not a good story, honestly. Is the show bad? No. It's pretty funny. It's got good fights. It's got good animation, but the story is just really terrible. So it's going to have to go into eh. Next, we have Mashle. I think objectively, Mashle's probably a mid show. I'm going to put it at the top of mid because it's got good animation. It's very funny, which is what you expect from it. So I get people be like, oh, you should maybe put it good. And it has a story, but it's kind of just a Harry Potter ripoff, honestly. And if you watch it, it's very good. You'll like the characters. The characters are very good. The story is solid, right? I think the biggest problem with it is one, it is a Harry Potter ripoff. Two, there's not much depth there. It's really just funny moments. That's like really what the show is. And that's really only season 1. Season 2 is not really that funny, and it's kind of just story. So you're missing the big thing you came to the show for, and the story is just solid, right? It's not anything crazy. So I think I'm going to put it mid-base, basically solely off the fact of the story and that it switches up from being funny to serious, and it should probably just remain funny the whole time. Next, we have Pokemon. I think Pokemon is objectively pretty mid. I'll put it above GTO. And the reason why is because you never know what you're going to get with Pokemon. Some of the seasons are amazing and you'll love them, and some of the seasons are terrible and trash and you'll hate them. I can't really describe Pokemon because every season really is different, so it really depends on what you like. But I've never met anyone who likes every season of Pokemon, because you just won't. I mean, it's impossible to. I'm just being honest. But it's not bad, right? I think it's only mid because it suffers from it being so different, which is another thing with JoJo's as well. That's the reason why JoJo's in the top 10. But JoJo's is obviously a way more in-depth show than Pokemon, but it's kind of suffering from success, right? That's why it's in mid, though. Next, we have Windbreaker. This show is the definition of mid. I will put it above Baki. It is basically a fighting show, a delinquent show. I don't understand why those are so popular, by the way. But the story is all right. The characters, except for Sakura, he's actually really good, are all right. The animation is alright. The music's really good. But overall, everything about most delinquent shows and animes, like GTO as well, they're all alright. It's not really anything fantastic. And also what hurts Windbreaker is the dub is very cringy. The stuff they say is so cringe. It like actually just makes me like my skin crawl because of how bad some of the lines they chose. Like the voice acting's not bad. It's just some of the stuff they say is really cringe. But yeah, Windbreaker, it's just alright. Like, there's nothing special about it, honestly, if you look at an objective standpoint. It's just guys fighting to see who's stronger. That's it. Nothing special. Next, we have Hajime no Ippo. Oh, this is actually so tough. I think objectively, it's going to go top 10. I don't think it's going to go ahead of Code Geass, because if you look at Ippo, it's hard to find an issue with it. I don't think you can really say the animation is bad, especially for when it came out. I mean, maybe you could, because it came out early 2000s, so it could be a little bit better. But if that's your only complaint, I mean, that's all you can really have, because you can't say the show does not have a lot of depth, because it does. You can't say it doesn't have good action, because it does. You can't say it's not accurate to what it's going off of, because it is. It is accurate to a lot of boxing moments. A lot of the characters, very in-depth, very great, a lot of personal connections in there. Also, if you think, oh, well, it might be a little too serious, there's a lot of funny moments. In the episodes where it's not about fighting, connect with the story. They have purpose. They build character. I think everything about this show is arguably perfect. Again, it's similar to Hunter x Hunter, though. You could argue it's not perfect because it'll never be finished, right? Well, Hunter x Hunter might be finished. Ippo will never be finished, so maybe that's why you can argue that. Next, we have Ghost in the Shell. Oh, this is tough because it's a movie. I almost don't want to include it because it's a movie. So, you know, we might have an extra one in the top 10 because movies are different from shows, obviously. But to me, it's the best anime movie, and in a movie, you can't have everything be perfect because they're only so long. I think it's perfect. I'm going to leave it at the end here just because the top 10 will make it a top 11. I'm not changing the name of it. Yeah, I will. Just because the people are going to skip to the end and be like, why is there 11 in top 10? So I think it's a perfect movie. It inspired The Matrix. It is an amazing, unique story. It is a very influential anime. The animation's not even that bad. Very great character. Like, a whole lot. There's nothing wrong with the show, right? Or the movie. So it's going to go top 11. Next, we have The God of High School. This is garbage. I'd put it just ahead of Raid Master. I love the manhwa for God of High School. In my opinion, greatest manhwa ever. One of the best, like, comic books of all time. The reason why the anime is in garbage, and it really shouldn't be. It shouldn't be in garbage. I'll move it above Kill la Kill. I just want to put it garbage because it pisses me off so much. The story in God of High School, the anime adapts like 120 chapters in 12 episodes. That's why I want to put it garbage. But if you just watch the anime and didn't read anything like that or anything or know that, it makes sense and it is pretty solid. It's not as good as the actual thing because they cut a lot of stuff out. But it does fuck them because they literally can't make a season 2 off of it because they ruined season 1 so bad and it's a completely different story at this point. But if you watch it by itself, a quick 12 episode anime, it's decent, right? It's not anything crazy, but it's definitely lower than mid. It's just not that good. Next, we have Psyche K. I'm going to be honest, I think objectively it has to go into mid. It's not my type of humor. I'll put it like, it's similar to GTO. It's just funny. You get some stuff out of it, but it's really just funny. It's not my type of humor. I don't really like Psyche K, but I think objectively it is just a mid show. No, not real any story there, but it's funny, and you got cool characters. So, yeah, mid. Next, we have Rurouni Kenshin. I think objectively Rurouni Kenshin is good. I'd probably put it just above Jujutsu Kaisen. Obviously, another influential anime. But the thing with Rurouni Kenshin is you got a lot of cool characters. You got a cool story. It's got a lot of historical accuracy as well. Obviously, it's not based on a true story, but a lot of their stuff they do is very historically accurate and stuff like that, which is pretty cool. The world building is great as well. Characters are great. I think I already said that. The only reason it's not, like, very good is because the pacing is pretty shit. Not going to lie. It's not really paced that well. So that's the only reason it's not going to go higher. Pacing's pretty bad. Next, we have Skate the Infinity. Now, every time I've done a Skate the Infinity ranking or talking about it, I think it's a trash show, but a lot of people like this show. And I'm trying to think objectively what is good about it. Because the story's not really good. It does bounce all over the place. I'll be honest. Story is not great. The characters, there's really only maybe two well-written characters. The rest of the characters just kind of are gay. And there's nothing wrong with being gay. I'm not saying that's a problem. But they just, like, made it their personality to be gay, and they called it a day. So, yeah, not really much effort put into the other characters other than the main two. The main two, they've got story, background, lore, and all that. The rest of the characters, it's like, let's just make them gay. That was pretty much the thought process, I think, because there's not much to them. So I think a lot of the characters, not very in-depth characters. I think, I'll scroll up a little bit so y'all can see the tier. I think the story doesn't really make much sense. Animation's not anything special. Music's all right. I think it's an ass show. If you like the little fruity relationships going on, then you might find some enjoyment in it. It's not like the worst show ever, but I honestly think it's pretty bad. It's going to go at the bottom of F for me. I don't see what people like in it, I'll be honest. Next, we have Doraemon. I think objectively a mid show, and I'm going to put it at the bottom of mid, and it's one that's going to stay at the bottom of mid. The reason why is because it's literally like Japanese SpongeBob almost. It's pretty much exclusively for kids. Adults are not really going to enjoy it. Even teenagers are not really going to enjoy it. The story's all over the place because it's just meant to go on forever. So, yeah, it's going to go in mid. I don't want to go into it too much because there's so much you could talk about here. Next, we have Boruto. I think objectively Boruto's going to have to go garbage. I put it at the top of garbage because, it's at least in the Naruto universe, and Naruto's fantastic. But the reason Boruto is going in garbage is because it's the most dropped anime of all time. And it doesn't bring a whole lot to the table to the Naruto universe or really anything. So yeah, it's pretty garbage. Next, we have Yu Yu Hakusho. I think Yu Yu Hakusho, to me, is going to go top 10. I'd probably put it above all of these, honestly. Yu Yu Hakusho, to me, is Hunter x Hunter, but finished. They're made by the same guy. They're not really the same, but it's got like a similar vibe. I think Yu Yu Hakusho, amazing characters, amazing story, amazing music, like amazing everything. A lot of people, like when it comes to Yu, they're like, oh, the ending's not that good. Personally, I don't see it. I think objectively it is a good ending. They're like, it's because it's rushed and they don't show everything happening, but they don't need to. All you need the ending to be is Yusuke and Keiko coming together. I think the tournament being rushed actually makes sense. I don't think it's rushed. I think the reason you don't see all the fights is because they're not important to Yusuke's story. At the end of the day, we're following Yusuke, and after he finds himself and finds what he wants to do and everything like this and that, there's no purpose to show the rest of it. So I don't think it's rushed at all. I actually think it's fine. And I think the only thing about Yu Yu is you can argue the first like 10, 20 episodes are not that important. But they are important. They're just not as important to the rest of the show, right? I think that's really the only thing you can argue, because other than that, it's great. Oh, except Kuwabara's sister, her voice actor is not good other than that. Sword Art Online, I think objectively it's a mid show. I'll put it above GTO. I think it's got a great concept. I think a lot of the characters are really cool. I think the animation is solid. I think the biggest part about Sword Art is it's kind of like Fairy Tail. You have some arcs that are good and some arcs that are bad. Now, it has more good arcs than bad arcs, but they do have bad arcs. So, yeah, I think it's going to have to go mid. Some of the arcs do suck, but most of them are decent, so I think it's going to go mid for that reason. There's just too much bad in it. Next, we have Blue Exorcist. I think this is another mid show. I'd probably put it like above One Punch Man. I think everything about it is just solid, which is why it's mid. You only have two characters that are like really great characters, which is Rin and Shura. Everybody else is like, eh. Villains, again, not really that, I don't want to say believable, but they're not really that villainy, I guess. Like, I don't know. They don't give off good villain vibes. And the story is just kind of right? It's okay. You know, there's just nothing great about this show. It's easy to follow, I guess. Power system's cool, and then the main character and the secondary main character is pretty cool. But other than that, it's just nothing special. But there's nothing really bad about it either. So I think that's why it's going to go top of mid. It doesn't have much issues, but it's just not fantastic, right? Next, we have My Hero Academia. I think objectively, My Hero is a good show. It's very, very good. I would put it probably above JoJo's. Now, a lot of people are going to complain and whine about it because, you know, people like to complain about My Hero. My Hero without the fan base is a very, very good show. The only reason people don't like My Hero is the fan base. Now, their fan base is dog shit. It's terrible. It's trash. But the show itself is phenomenal. It is a phenomenal show. The characters, some of the best characters in all of anime. The story, although not necessarily original, it's just a superhero story. They do it very well, and it's unique. Their power system, although again superheroes, very unique. I think the biggest problem with My Hero lies in Deku. I think Deku as the main character just isn't really great, and really just early on. Now, I am of the believer that, or maybe I should reword this. People always are like, oh, Deku's not that bad, this, and that. The problem with Deku is when he's not fighting, and it's even in the newer seasons, when he's not fighting, he is a little bitch, and he is so unlikable. But people like him just because of the cool stuff he does while he's fighting. But when he's not fighting, he is unlikable. He is not written very well, especially later on, because I get in the beginning being a crybaby, okay? I get it, right? You're new to this shit, you injure yourself every time you fight this and that. I get being a crybaby at that point. But as you go on and on into the show, in his fights, he's awesome. He's like, all right, I don't care if I get hurt. I'm saving everybody. I'm going to be a real hero. Dope as hell. When he's not fighting, he's still acting like a little bitch. Like, he still carries the little bitch syndrome with him when he's not in a fight. And I don't get it. It's like he grows, but he doesn't grow. He shows character growth, but he doesn't show character growth. So that's, I think, the biggest problem is Deku is not sure what he wants to be. Does he want to be a hero or a crybaby? I don't know. Because when it comes down to it, he's going to always be a hero. But then when it's not coming down to it, he's going to be a bitch. If he don't have to be a hero, he's not going to be. He's going to act like a little baby when he's at home, when he's hanging out with friends, when he's going to go to get food. He's going to act like a little baby there, and he always has. I mean, look at when he went emo for no reason. I mean, that was stupid as hell. But even if he found a reason to, like, he's just acting like a baby, bro. He shows character development, obviously, in terms of his fighting, like, and in terms of his goals and what he wants to do and stuff like that. But the biggest problem with Deku is he doesn't grow up outside of fighting. Now, I get you could say, oh, that's not really important, but it is when we're enjoying the show. I hate how much he cries outside of battle for Kacchan to give him some affection. Yeah, it's just very lame, and honestly, he should have grown as a person outside of battle too, so I think that's the biggest problem with My Hero. Next, we have Assassination Classroom. I think objectively, it's got to be pretty mid. I'll put it under Windbreaker. Now, here's the reason why. Assassination Classroom, I remember it being good. I remember the characters being likable. I remember the story being decent. I don't remember anything about the show. I remember how I felt about it, but the only episode I can remember was the ending. This show is so forgettable, and that's the only reason it's going mid. I'm not saying it's a bad show, but it's hard to put a show in good when it's so forgettable. Like, I only remember 3 of the characters' names. Now, there are the 3 main characters, but it's just such a forgettable show, and I think that's why it has to go mid. It's not even to hate on it, it's just, it's so forgettable, and if your story's not memorable, it's not a good story, you know? Next we have Fullmetal Alchemist. It's going top 10 pretty easily. Objectively, a pretty perfect show, has very few issues. Next, Mob Psycho, same thing. I actually think it's even better than Fullmetal. I think that's just personal preference, but yeah, I guess you could put it below. Mob Psycho, again, has 0 issues whatsoever. Fantastic, phenomenal show. Next, we have Black Clover. I love Black Clover, personally, in my top 5 anime. I don't think objectively it's a top 5 anime, though. I think it's good, and I would probably put it above Bleach, because it's, I don't want to say similar to Bleach, but they take a lot of aspects from Bleach, right? I think Black Clover is very influential in terms of a new gen. It's very big new gen, and I think it takes a lot of things that Bleach does, like its similarities in Bleach, and does them better. The biggest part of Black Clover is the elves. The elves are not really written that well, but other than that, the rest of the story is written pretty well, and a lot of the characters are written well, and it's a power system that's familiar, but with its own twist to it. So it is very good. It just needs, I don't know, the elves kind of ruin it a little bit, objectively. Next, we have Naruto. To me, I think it's objectively got to be top 10. It's my favorite show of all time. So I know you're going to say bias, bias, bias. But if you look at Naruto, the only problem Naruto has is the ending. And I always see people talk about bullshit like the characters. It has way more character development than almost any other show, if not all shows out there. People just complain because Rock Lee and Choji and Kiba didn't get any more in Shippuden. That's not bad character development. That's their story being done. Because in Shippuden, there's still a ton of character development. The story is phenomenal. It's got the best villain group ever. It's such an original story. Again, a very influential show as well, which boosts its numbers as well. And according to Netflix and Crunchyroll, the most watched anime in the past 20 years. So that also has to give it points. It has statistically been the most popular anime in the past 20 years. And on Crunchyroll, they don't even got the dub. So I think that just kind of shows. And they don't got Shippuden on Netflix either. So, and for it to still be number one over the past 20 years, and actually on Netflix, it just got dethroned last month by One Piece. It's the first time Naruto has not been the number one anime on Netflix for like 20 years, which is insane. I think for that reason, it has to go that high. The biggest problem of Naruto is the ending with Kaguya. Should have ended with Madara. Everybody knows this. But yeah, Kaguya is really the only bad part of the show. Again, people are going to mention filler. Filler does not count for a show. I feel like it's pretty self-explanatory. Anyway, next we have Fire Force. I think objectively, Fire Force is one of the best new gens. The biggest problem with Fire Force, a lot of people hate Tamaki. She does not have nearly the worst fan service in a lot of these shows on here. Like, her fan service is not that bad. I'm going to be honest. It's really not. People just overreact to that shit. The worst part about Fire Force is just the fact everybody has to use fire and everybody dresses the same. It takes a little bit of uniqueness away, but I think it's very, very good. I think the story is phenomenal. I think the characters are phenomenal, and it's hard to find a bad thing in Fire Force. I think I'm going to put it at the top of good. It is actually a very phenomenal show. The reason people hate on it, though, is for, subjective reasons, like they don't like Tamaki or whatever. Tamaki is not a bad character. Next, we have To Be Hero X. Oh, boy, To Be Hero X. No, Season 1 was all set up. I'd be lying if I said it wasn't perfect, bro. I don't think there's a bad episode in Season 1. I don't think there's a bad moment. I think, honestly, so far, it's got to go, top 10. I'll put it just above Ippo because it's not in far. Now, I get what you're saying. Some of the other ones, I was like, Chainsaw Man is just getting started. To Be Hero X is only going to have 2 seasons, if I'm not mistaken. So, we've already seen half the show. And the first half is perfect. I got to put it in top 10. It's genuinely, so far, a perfect show. Next, we have Samurai Champloo. It's like Cowboy Bebop, but a little bit worse, so I'll probably put it, above Bleach, probably. It's basically what I said about Cowboy Bebop, but just a little bit worse. Next, we have Trigun. Oh, Trigun is tough. Objectively, great characters. Objectively, decent story, but it's got the same problem as Cowboy Bebop. I think I'm just going to... Those two are pretty similar. Yeah. Fate Zero. Okay, this is going to piss people off because apparently Fate has a really massive fan base that don't understand their show. Which, is what it is. Fate, the story, or Fate Zero specifically, I haven't seen all of them. But Fate Zero, the story, it's alright. Other than Kiritsugu's part, it's mid. It really is mid. The characters, again, mid. Half of the important characters are lame as hell, and then half of them are really cool. It's another one that's carried by aura and animation, although I don't think the animation is anything crazy. A lot of the fights really just come down to aura versus aura. Like, everybody loves Gilgamesh. Gilgamesh don't do shit. He's a fraud, and he loses all the time. Like, he's not even strong. I don't understand. Anyway, that's besides the point. The story overall is just kind of mid, though. Season 1 also has pretty bad pacing and feels unimportant. And Season 2 is phenomenal. I love Season 2. It's actually amazing. Season 1 is a little bit all over. Not all over the place, but very slow. I think it's going to go mid. I'll put it behind Mashle. I think Mashle's got a better overall rounded show. Fate is just, it's okay. Like, it's not anything special. I don't understand how it has so many diehard fans, and I'm not, saying that to be, a dick or anything. Being like, oh, you don't like this, blah, 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 but, it's just okay. I should say, yeah, no, diehard was the right word, because, they argue, it's, the greatest show ever. Because I like shit. Like, GTO, I love GTO, one of my favorite shows ever, but if you tell me GTO is not that good, I'll be like, yeah, that's fair. I'm not sitting here dying on a hill over that, right? It's not a show worth dying on a hill on. Same with Fate, but they will. Them Fate fans are crazy, man. Tokyo Revengers, it's the same thing as Windbreaker, honestly. I prefer Windbreaker, though, so I'll put it under. Dr. Stone? Look, I low-key had to drop Dr. Stone. I'm not going to lie. I don't think it's that good. I think, objectively, the characters are pretty solid. but I think you don't really get what you come for when you watch this. I think it's going to go, I'm not going to put it behind Solo Leveling. Because one, scientifically, it's not accurate, like, throughout the show. There are some parts that are accurate, but it's not really an accurate show. Second of all, the pacing, well, it's really the plot more than the pacing is not that good because it takes forever for anything to get done. Like, they still haven't rebuilt society, and it's ending in, like, a month. So don't really understand that one. The comedy is way too much. I'm not saying shows shouldn't have comedy, but at least in season 1, there is more jokes being ripped than there is story being told. And that's not necessarily a bad thing for most people, but that is not, if you look at Dr. Stone, read it, watch trailer and everything, that's not what you come to the show for. You come to the show because the story looks interesting, and then they don't do the story half the time, they just do a bunch of other bullshit. So I think that's why it's going to go into It's kind of misleading. Characters are cool, whatever, but story's not really that great. It's inaccurate and takes forever. Next we have Pluto. I think objectively Pluto's a very good show, but it's short. Put it just above Rurouni Kenshin. Next we have Erased. Again, objectively another very good show, very good story. The only problem with Erased is they have some tricky relationships that happen in the show. And now if you've never seen it, you're probably thinking, oh, it's some Diddy shit. Not really. It's just some relationships that aren't really explained well, I think. But it's still a very good show. I'd probably put it above Cyberpunk Edgerunners, which means we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Which we have 2 more then. We have Gurren Lagann and Vinland Saga will make the top 10, which I feel like is fair. They're very good shows. Now, this is my take on an objective ranking. Now, it is impossible to have a pure objective ranking unless if you just want to go off of numbers, like which one is watched the most. In this case, it'd just be Naruto, Dragon Ball, One Piece, whatever. But I tried to give it the best objective ranking I could. I'm sorry if it's bad. I don't really know. Obviously my personal ranking, which I did like a couple weeks ago, if you want to go see that, is nothing like this. But yeah, this is my best take at an objective tier list. If you enjoyed, leave a like, subscribe, please. It helps me out a lot, and I post anime content 3 times a week, so you can see a bunch of cool stuff. Peace.